CityOfLedar. In the year 2080, an evil scientist, Shedu, discovered a new energy source. This source was under the oceans, and its name was Slanium. Slanium was a very powerful element, and Shedu used this element to create clever robots. Then he raised an army of robots and controlled the world with this evil army. His soldiers were huge machines with strong weapons. Then he controlled all the people in the world. They were his slaves now, and they worked only for him. Shedu became the only leader of the world. His world was dark and cold. People were not happy in his world. They all worked in the middle of the ocean, in big and cold factories. They produced more clever robots for Shedu. The merciless robot soldiers hated human workers and always kept them under control. They served Shedu. Shedu was their father and master. But there was still hope for humans. In the middle of a big island, there was a very dark and big forest. And under this forest, there was a secret city. Its name was Ledar. Shedu could not control Ledar because he could not find the city. The city was under the ground, and the people of Ledar never went out of their secret city. They always hid themselves under the ground and lived together. The leader of Ledar was a very wise and strong man. His name was Kuman. Kuman was a hero in Ledar because he saved people from Shedu and built the city of Ledar. The people of Ledar lived in small houses, and they never saw the blue sky or the sun or the stars. It was always dark in Ledar, and it was very difficult to live under the ground. There was not enough food or water, but the people of Ledar worked together and shared everything. They had lived in peace for 50 years, but now they were afraid of Shedu and his evil robot army because they finally found their city. People gathered in the small city center. They were very anxious. Then Kuman came to the city center. He was walking very slowly, with a long walking stick. Kuman was not a young man anymore. He was getting old and weak. His daughter, Aden, was near him. Aden was Kuman's only child, and he loved her so much. Kuman looked at his people, and then he looked at his daughter with his old eyes and began to talk. People of Ledar, I have very bad news for you. We have lived in this dark city for 50 years, and we lived in peace, but our days are over. Finally, the evil soldiers of Shadu found our secret city, and they will come here soon. I have done my best, but everything is at an end. I am very sorry to say that, but there is no hope for us. Everybody was shocked. There was no hope for them. Some people began to cry and hugged their families. Then, suddenly, Aden shouted, "No, there is still hope for us. We can fight with Shadu." Everybody looked at Aden. They were surprised, and Kuman was shocked too. "Do not listen to my daughter. She is very young. She does not know the powers of Shadu." "No, father, I know his power. He is not any more powerful than humans. We should resist his army." "We cannot resist Shadu, my dear. We can only hide ourselves. He has the power of machines and weapons, but we only have wooden sticks," said Kuman. "But we will be his slaves," said Aden. "We do not have any other choice," said Kuman, and walked away sadly. Then everybody walked away. They were very sad and hopeless. Aden stayed alone, but she was not sad. She was very angry. She went to her grandfather's house. He was the oldest man in Ledar. He was a wise man like Kuman. Aden went to his tiny home and said, "Nobody listens to me, grandfather. We must fight with Shadu." "Do you want to fight with Shadu?" asked her grandfather. "Yes, I do," said Aden. "You are just like your father. You are a very brave girl, Aden, but do not forget Shadu has a very strong army, and you are alone." "I am not afraid of his army. Where is Shadu? How can I find him, grandfather?" "You have never gone outside, my dear. You do not know anything about the world above our city," said her grandfather. "But I have read lots of books. My father taught me everything about the world. Please tell me, grandfather, where is Shadu? Have you ever seen him?" "I have seen him once. He was very strong. First you must find the ocean, and then cross the thin bridge of the island. Then you must walk for many days in a snowy desert. Then you will see the city of Gormut. Shadu lives in Gormut. Gormut is the darkest city in the world. It is darker than the night. In the middle of that dark city, there is a huge red tower, and Shadu lives at the top of that tower. But he has got thousands of robot soldiers and machines in Gormut, and he has got a special bodyguard. His name is Davas. Davas is a giant machine with horrible weapons. He is bigger than all the machines in Gormut, and he only protects Shadu. I am not afraid of all these machines. Ledar is our home. I must save the city of Ledar. I must save all the humans, said Aden. You are young and brave, Aden, just like your father. In the past, I could not stop your father, and I cannot stop you now. Please do not forget you have got only 2 weapons, said her grandfather. What are they? Your heart and your mind, said her grandfather. Then Aden kissed her grandfather and left. The tiny streets of the city were empty. Everybody was in their small house. They were waiting for their end, but Aden was brave. She climbed the ladders and came to the giant door of Ledar. The door of the city was closed for 50 years, and Aden slowly opened the giant door with her tiny hands. Then she went out for the first time in her short life. She was in the middle of a dark forest. She could not believe her eyes. Everything was so big and scary. She walked among the dark and big trees. I must find the ocean and cross the thin bridge first, said Aden. She walked alone in the dark, but she was not scared. She only thought of the people of Ledar. Then, finally, she saw the ocean. It is beautiful, said Aden. Then she saw the bridge. It was a very long and thin bridge. She walked towards the bridge. The ocean was very silent, and there was no sound around. She felt nervous and came in front of the bridge. Then, suddenly, she heard a noise. She quickly turned back and saw her grandfather. She was shocked. Grandfather! Yes, my dear. Do not be scared. It is me. Why are you here? Asked Aden. I am here because you cannot fight with Shadu alone. I will help and guide you. But you are too old for this, grandfather. And you are too young, so I should help you. My life has come to its end. Do not worry for me, and keep walking. I will be just behind you, said the old man, and smiled. Aden was very happy to see her grandfather. They walked together to the bridge. It was a very old wooden bridge, just above the ocean. Aden looked forward and tried to see the end of the bridge, but she could not, because the bridge was very long. Then she began to walk slowly and carefully. Her gentle steps were moving like tiny leaves. The old man was walking carefully behind Aden. They were very silent. They walked for a long time above the ocean. Then, suddenly, she heard a strange noise. The old man listened carefully. The noise became louder and louder. It was a mechanical noise, and it was coming from the dark sky. Then Aden looked at the sky and saw two small red lights. "Look, grandfather, it is a strange fly." "Shh! Do not move. It is a robot fly." It was a tiny robot fly. The fly came closer and closer. Then it suddenly stopped in front of Aden's face. Aden didn't move. She stayed calm. Then the fly went away. "This is a robot fly. It works for Shadoo. Shadoo's soldiers will find us soon. We must hide," said the old man. "What will we do now?" "We must be very quick." "All right, grandfather." They were in great danger now. The robot soldiers could be there any moment. Then they began to walk very fast. "Come on, Aden. We must cross the bridge very quickly, or the robot soldiers will find us." "We cannot hide ourselves," said the old man. "All right, grandfather," said Aden. They began to walk very quickly but carefully. The thin bridge was swinging dangerously, but they had no other choice. Then finally Aden saw the end of the bridge and said, "Here is the end. We made it, grandfather." But suddenly they heard the horrible noise of the robot soldiers. The old man looked back and said, "Robot soldiers are coming, Aden. Run! Do not look back." They began to run. The robot soldiers were on the bridge now, and they were running too. They were huge. Their red eyes were shining, and they had very big guns. The old man and Aden were running, but the soldiers were very fast. "Be quick, Aden. They are coming." "All right, grandfather," said Aden. Now they were running like the wind, and finally they reached the end of the bridge. The robot soldiers were still on the bridge, but they were very close. The old man turned back and looked at the robot soldiers. Then he put his old hand under his brown jacket and took a blade. It was a laser blade. "Get back, Aden," he shouted. Then he cut the ropes of the old bridge, and all the robot soldiers fell into the ocean. The heavy bodies of the robot soldiers were in the ocean now, and they sunk to the bottom of the ocean like heavy stones. "Wow! That was amazing, grandfather," said Aden. "We must be very careful, Aden," said the old man. "Your blade is so cool, grandfather. You are like a warrior," said Aden. "This is not a game, Aden. Shadoo's soldiers can kill us. They are very strong. Now follow me and be careful." Then the old man began to walk slowly. Aden was walking behind him. They walked for hours. Then finally they came to an old city. The city was dark, and there was nobody around. It was like a ghost city. They walked in the empty streets of the city. Aden was looking at the high grey buildings curiously. "Where are we, grandfather?" "We are in Gurmut," said the old man. "Is this Gurmut? But the city does not look very dangerous. I cannot see any soldiers around," said Aden. "They are here, Aden. They see us. They will come, and you will see them too. Now be silent and walk behind me." "All right, grandfather." They continued to walk in the silent streets. The old man was walking slowly with his walking stick. He was very silent. Aden was nervous. She felt lost. She missed her family and friends. Then, suddenly, they heard a loud noise. It was a scary, mechanical noise. "Robot soldiers," said the old man. 2 robot soldiers were coming towards the old man and Aden. Aden looked at their big metal weapons. They were shining in the dark street. Aden stood near the old man and waited. She was not scared. The old man took his laser blade again and said, "Stay away, Aden." "You cannot fight alone, grandfather. I will help you. We will fight together." "No, Aden, stay away." The robots were very close now. They stopped in front of the old man and Aden. One of the soldiers spoke with a mechanical voice and said, "What are you doing outside? Slaves must work in a factory. Slaves must work for Shadu." "We are not slaves," shouted Aden. Then the old man attacked the robot with his laser blade. But the robot soldier was very fast and strong. They hit the old man in the face, and he fell down. Aden shouted and ran towards the old man. "You are monsters," she said angrily. Then she took the laser blade to attack them. But suddenly she saw a man in blue clothes just behind the robots. He was wearing a white mask, and he had a very big laser sword in his hand. He attacked the robot soldiers and cut their bodies in two. The robots were dead now. He was faster than lightning. Aden could not believe her eyes. "Who are you?" asked Aden. "I am Jerma, commander of the Ledar army," he said. "Where is your army?" asked Aden. "Over there," said the old man. Aden looked back and saw hundreds of men and women in blue clothes. They were the people of Ledar. Jerma holds Aden's hand and said, "You are the brave princess of Ledar. Your courage has become a light for us." "I am proud of my city," Jamar said Aden. "There is no time to talk. We must find the tower of Shadu," said the old man. Then Jamar turned towards his army and said, "Brave people of Ledar, now is the time to destroy Shadu and his army. Follow us and be brave, just like Princess Aden." Then the army of Ledar began to march. The blue clothes of the army seemed like a strong river. Aden was very happy. She felt very strong. They marched towards the tower of Shadu, but then they saw a grey cloud. The cloud was not in the sky. It was on the ground. "Is that a cloud?" asked Aden. "It is not a cloud. It is the army of Shadu," said the old man. The old man was right. The army of Shadu was very crowded and powerful. The metal bodies of the robots were shining like a big silver star. Jerma looked at the robots and turned back to his army. Then he shouted like a lion, "Get ready to fight!" The army of Ledar got ready to fight. They took their blue laser swords and prepared their shields. The robots were very close now. Then the army of Ledar attacked like a powerful storm. The robots were many, but the soldiers of Ledar fought better. They were fast like the wind. Nobody was scared. They fought for hours, but more and more robots came. Then the army of Ledar got tired. Then Jerma shouted, "Throw the rain bombs! Throw the rain bombs!" 2 soldiers of Ledar throw strange bombs into the sky. They were shiny round and green balls. The bombs exploded in the sky and made big dark clouds. Then it began to rain. The robots looked up and began to try to run away because rain was harmful to their bodies. The old man looked at the sky and said, "This is a miracle. It has not rained for 100 years. Shadu's giant machines stopped the rains 100 years ago, but now it is raining, just like in the old days. This is a new bomb. I call it the Rainmaker," said Jamar. The rain broke all the robots. Then the army of Ledar began to march again. They were marching towards the tower of Shadu. Aden was very happy. "Shadu cannot stop us now. We defeated his army." "Not yet," said the old man. "What do you mean?" asked Aden. "The guardian of Shadu is waiting for us. Its name is Davas. It is the biggest and strongest robot. But we have got an army now. We have got swords and weapons," said Aden. "We cannot defeat Davas with our swords. Davas is stronger than all the armies," said Jamar. "Davas cannot stop us," said Aden. "We will see about that," said Jamar. Then they marched towards the tower of Shadu. The blue army of Ledar marched slowly. The grey and cold city was still very silent, and it was still raining. Nobody spoke a word. They were just walking. They were walking for their future. "Stop," said Jamar. They finally reached the Tower of Shadu. The red tower was higher than the clouds, and there was no door or window to enter. There was only a black ladder on one of its walls. Aden looked at the ladder and said, "I cannot see Davas or any other robots. Let's climb the ladder and find Shadu." But suddenly they heard a horrible sound. The old man looked at the sky and said, "It is Davas." Davas was flying above the army of Ledar. It was so big that nobody could see the dark sky. The shadow of Davas was bigger than the army of Ledar. Everybody was nervous. Then Davas landed on the ground. It was huge. Jamar looked at the army of Ledar and shouted, "Brave soldiers of Ledar, attack!" Then Jamar took off his mask and showed his face. Aden looked at Jamar and could not believe her eyes. It was not Jamar. It was Kuman. Aden was shocked. "Father, is that you?" "Yes, my brave daughter. I am always with you. Now we must fight. Stay back and be careful." Then the army of Ledar attacked Davas. They were fighting and screaming, but Davas was very big. The soldiers of Ledar were like blue ants around Davas's feet. Davas was defending the tower, and there was no way to go to the tower. Aden was behind the army, but she could not stay back. Then she ran towards Davas to fight, but suddenly she remembered her grandfather's words. "Please do not forget you have only got two weapons, your heart and your mind." "I must listen to my heart and use my mind," said Aden. She was running like the wind. Then she went around Davas and stopped just behind the giant robot. She tried to be very silent and climbed into the giant robot. The soldiers of Ledar were still fighting bravely. Aden climbed silently and reached the head of Davas. She was at the back of Davas's head. Davas did not see her because Aden was very small. She was tiny, like a fly on Davas's head. Then she found a small hole on Davas's head and went into that hole. She was inside Davas's head. There were a lot of cables and small buttons around her. She walked among the cables and buttons. Then she reached the brain of Davas. There was a huge tank under Davas's mechanical brain. She went near the tank. It was a tank of slanium. Slanium was the blood of the robots. "These robots cannot work without slanium," said Aden. Then she opened the tank and poured the selenium away. The giant robot suddenly stopped. Aden ran back and climbed out of Davas's head. She looked down and saw the soldiers of Ledar. They were very happy because Davas was dead now. Then Aden called the soldiers and said, "Victory is ours. Now we must defeat Shadu." Aden and the soldiers began to climb the tower. Kuman and the old man were climbing the tower too. There were hundreds of people on the ladder of the red tower now. Then they reached the top of the tower and saw the large room of Shadu. Aden was in front of the soldiers, and Kuman was standing near her. Shadu was sitting on his old throne. He did not try to run away. Aden and Kuman went closer and were shocked. Shadu was very weak and old. He looked terribly tired and sad. Aden looked at him and said, "You cannot be Shadu. You are very old and weak." "I am the great Shadu. I am the master of all humans, and the world is mine." "You are a monster. We have suffered for many years because of your selfishness and greedy nature. Now is the time of justice. Stand up and fight me," said Kuman. Shadu tried to stand up, but he could not because he was very old and weak. "Once I was very young and strong, but now I am weak and useless. I have not got a family or a friend. Time has changed me a lot, and now my time has finished," said Shadu. "He is right, father. You cannot punish him any more because time has punished him already. He has suffered for many years because he was lonely and desperate," said Aden. Then she turned and looked at Shadu's old and weak face. "I was very angry with you, but now I see that you are a very weak and lonely man. Time has punished you enough, so we will not punish you. The people of Ledar forgive you," said Aden. Kuman and the old man were proud of Aden. Everybody was very happy. They went down from the tower and released the slaves of Shadu. All the slaves were free now, and they began a new life. It was a new beginning for all the people in the world.